Thanks so much for joining me. I'm BCAN's Allie Ray, and here I am joined with Executive Director of the Arts Commission, Mark Folk. Thanks so much for being here with me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
So describe a little bit about the Arts Commission is doing an awesome relief program with a $10,000 grant for local artists and musicians. Explain a little bit about how this came about and what it is.
So when we saw how fast-breaking the changes were happening with COVID-19 and the shutdowns that were happening across the city, state, country at this point, our thoughts went to our local artists. So many of our local artists make their living in what's known as the gig economy. So they basically compose a palette of different jobs that they can put together to really fulfill their artistic careers. And many of those, whether it's a gallery exhibition, a gig at a bar or restaurant, a concert, a teaching opportunity, really rely on the ability to gather people together. So when we saw that those opportunities for income were going to be going away, we tried to get ourselves activated really quickly and reallocated some other artist grant dollars we had through our accelerator program over to support the loss of income for our local artists through an emergency grant program. We also went through at that same time and created a really robust directory of resources for artists from the local, state, and national level that are on our website as well.
How are these artists and musicians able to apply for this grant? And what kind of qualifications do they need to have?
So let me first say that we are fundraising right now for the second round of this opportunity. That initial $10,000 that we allocated within the first 24 hours, request exceeded what we had available to support. So we're looking at fundraising right now for the next block of 5,000 so we can get more funding out. We saw just in the 30 people that had applied that there was about $68,000 of anticipated lost income. And if you break that down, that's about $2,500 a month per person that they'll be losing. So the call is closed right now, and we're actively fundraising for that to help meet that demand. Artists should follow us on social media to make sure that they're following the Arts Commission, as we will be announcing as soon as we hit that $5,000 threshold, the date when that will be open and available to our local artists for application again. The material they need to apply is proof that a gig or a exhibition or a teaching opportunity was canceled, so they can prove that it's a loss of income. We've been pretty loose on that. It could be a text message, an email, a flyer, whatever it is. We're trying to keep those guidelines really loose and brief so it's not a lot of work for artists. And then they'll be eligible to apply for $100, $250, or $500 to help them in this time.
Do you have any advice for Toledoans or those artists for how to keep hopeful and positive during this time?
I would just, I would say stay positive. It's the only thing that we really have control over. I would say create as much as you can and share it as often as possible. People are looking to be carried away and to be connected. And I think those are the things that the arts have always done for society. In our darkest moments, they become the biggest things. And artists tend to, at least visual artists and many performing artists, tend to isolate themselves so they can hone and practice their craft. I would encourage them to not feel overweighted in this situation, and if they do, to turn that into a creative endeavor that can be turned outward and connect people at this time. There are ways for both artists and the public to really use the arts to express and experience the range of emotions that we have right now. And I guess my other advice for artists would be to give themselves the permission to feel grief. We're all going through a grieving moment right now because the way we've been living has changed so drastically. And for people that work so hard to create things to share with other people, to have those other people not accessible at the time, it can feel like an extra burden. There are a lot of folks out here at the organizational level, at the volunteer level, that are working really hard to figure out what we can do to support our artists in the community. So I would just want them to know that there's a dedicated group of people thinking about them in this moment, and that we'll all get through it together.
That is fantastic advice. I hope that everyone in Toledo can feel united in the 419. Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for shining this light on our artist population. I really appreciate it. Thank you.